Hi guys, we're going to learn how to make a smoothie today. The very first thing you do is get this book out. Even if you think you know the recipe, be sure you look it up to double check. We're going to start by making a Power Peanut Butter today. So I'm going to look up Power Peanut Butter. By the way, these are in alphabetical order. Okay. Power Peanut Butter is one of our most popular ones. We're going to make a 16 ounce, so we're going to follow this first recipe. We start with a small cup, blender cup. The milk is kept right under here. We start with the thinnest liquid, so we're going to do 5 ounces of milk. Remember, the measurements are on the side of the cup. That's 5 ounces. All right, then we're going to come over here to the left-hand side and get the yogurt. All right, notice what I'm doing before I pour these. Give them a swirl, shake them up just a little bit, even the milk, because they do settle a little bit as they sit. So give it a swirl and then pour it. 2 ounces makes 7. Okay, pour that liquid into your blender cup. Then we're going to add the peanut butter in this one. Some smoothies have peanut butter, some do not. If the recipe does not call for peanut butter and they want peanut butter, you can add it, but there is an extra charge for that. Okay, we keep a spatula and a spoon right here ready to go. A recipe for a 16 ounce calls for 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and 1 tablespoon is not very much. That's 1 tablespoon. That's not very much peanut butter. You don't measure it in this because it's too hard to get out of this. So you're going to have to kind of get used to what a tablespoon looks like. That's going to be about a tablespoon. Okay, use the spatula and get as much of the peanut butter off the spoon as you can so we don't waste anything. And while you're making the smoothie, it is okay to leave the peanut butter spoons on top of the peanut butter until you finish and start to clean up. All right, we've got our yogurt, our milk, our peanut butter. Power Peanut Butter calls for chocolate protein. This customer wants whey protein. So remember, we've got meal replacement, whey, muscle mass. So we're going to use the chocolate whey. All right. That's what I call a loose scoop. It's not packed in there. It's not quite to the very, very top. The meal replacement and the whey protein, you do a loose scoop and just pour it in there. Now, we do have some customers that ask for a Power Peanut Butter, but they want the vanilla protein, and that's fine. Use the exact same recipe. You just use vanilla protein instead of chocolate protein on any of your smoothies. Remember, the customer is going to tell you whether they want whey, meal replacement, or muscle mass. The recipe is going to tell you whether to use chocolate or vanilla, unless they specify a certain one. All right, then it's ready to go. We're going to take it to the blender, and if you have any left in your cup, and you usually do because it settles, on the way to the blender, tap it on the side and get all of it in there. Then you can put it in the sink. This blender cup will only fit in the blender one way. There's flat sides on each side, and it will only fit in there one way. If you don't get it in there right, it's going to screech at you. So you just slide it in. Once it's in, you're going to hit the manual button. You're going to blend it for at least 1 minute. We have a clock on the wall so that you can tell exactly what 1 minute is. The smoothies with peanut butter tend to need a little bit more, so at least a minute. And you'll have to hold this down manually. It doesn't go by itself. You can kind of watch it. It's not smooth right now. You can see specks and bubbles and all kinds of things. It will be smooth by the time you get through blending it for a full minute. While you're doing this, if you have dirty dishes in the sink, Go ahead and be washing those dishes. It'll just save you a little bit of time later. Okay, you can see that it's getting smoother now. There's not as many speckles in it. For a small, we're going to push the 1 to dispense the ice. For a large smoothie, we'll push the 2 to dispense the ice. You never push the 3 on here. The little snowflake button that's right above the manual button is the ice button. It's extra ice. That's if you do it manually. If you need to add a little extra, or if someone asks for a smoothie that's really thin and you just need a little bit of ice, then that's the button right above this one. All right, it's blended well now. There's no specks. So I'm going to hit the 1 because this is a small smoothie. And you don't have to hold that down. That one goes by itself. But stay here because it's going to quit. And once it quits, you're going to hold the manual button down again for at least 30 seconds to finish the blend. Remember, button 1 is for a small, button 2 is for a large. You do manually first, then the 1 or the 2, and then manually again for about 30 seconds. All right, that's good and smooth. While you're holding that down, you can go ahead and get your cup ready. You need a cup and a lid and a straw, and you can do that while you're blending that. Okay, then take your cup and always pour over the sink. I'm not saying that you can't pour without being messy, but just in case, always pour over the sink. All right, can you get right there? There's a little bitty piece of ice right there that fell in when I pulled it out of the hopper. So I'm going to put it back in here and blend it just a little bit more. Always check for that ice. Sometimes it's right around the edge and you can just pour it off into the sink. Sometimes it falls down into the smoothie. Just give it a real quick spin so you're not pouring a chunk of ice in. And then pour it over the sink. It's easiest to pour if you will shake it a little bit and hold it up over the cup. Then it all goes in the cup. You'll find that some smoothies are a little thicker than others. You may have to add a little extra ice. You may have to add a little extra liquid if it's too thick, but we'll talk more about that later. If it's going through the drive-through, you have to put a lid on it. So you can fill it as full as you can, but not so full that you can't get the lid on it. Okay, and then it's ready to hand to the customer or hand out the window. All right, as soon as you have rung that up, which we will go over in another video, then come back to your sink. If you don't have another smoothie to make, then you need to clean up immediately so that blender will be ready for the next customer. There's a black splash guard on the smoothie machine. It just fits up and over those 2 little hooks. That has to be cleaned after every smoothie, every single smoothie. You got it. It doesn't have to be washed, just rinsed. Now, if you let it sit there for a while and forget to do it, then you're going to have to wash it because it'll be sticky and thick. But if you do it right then, it's real easy to just rinse. You just come up over the 2 little knobs and let it hang. And then you wash your smoothie blender. You rinse it with hot water first, as hot as you can stand, not cold water. This is our scrubby with soap. And just be sure that you get all the smoothie that's in there out. If it has peanut butter, be sure you check down in the bottom because sometimes the peanut butter does stick to that little spinner. Okay? And then be sure you rinse it well. You don't want to leave soap in the smoothie, in the blender, because the next smoothie might taste like soap if you do that. So Just be sure you rinse it out really well. And then turn it upside down on the drying pad, right there. Okay, and then we've got a cup to clean out. Again, just use the hot soapy water and then rinse it well. Make sure you get all the soap out. And just check to make sure it's clean. And you're good. The main thing is to use that recipe book. Follow the recipe to a T. I said just a minute ago that I tell you there are some smoothies that are going to be thicker than others, and you will need to add maybe a tiny bit of extra liquid after you've blended it if it won't blend because it's too thick or it looks thicker than it should. Then you can add a little bit of milk, a little bit of one of the fruit purees, but just a little bit. And then there may be some that after you spin it and it's just still thin looking, then you may have to add a little extra ice. The ones without the protein in them, I need to go over with you too. If the customer orders a smoothie with no protein in it, then you are going to have to modify the recipe a little bit, because with no protein in it, if you follow that recipe, it's not going to fill up the cup. It's not going to make enough. So when you do a smoothie with no protein, let's say a dreamsicle, that says 3 ounces of banana, 3.5 ounces of tang. Well, the top of this cup is 9 ounces. So you want to fill it to the top of the cup. So you're going to increase those just a little bit. Let's say 4.5 banana and 4.5 tang. And that'll get you 9 ounces. You also have to add a little extra ice manually